Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gaura Pimanandi, Jai Vishwapada Paramahamsa, Pri Vrajagacharya Stotra Sattva, Sri Simad His Divine Grace, Shilabhai Charanara Vidya Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Iskon BBT, Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Dakshurunmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavamsya Sri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabharutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakandvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Jina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustute Tapta Kancana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpataribhyasya Vipasindubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Shaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayad. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayashabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, it becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttama Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Yeshreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, that is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyay Namaha. Om Surabhyay Namaha. Om Surabhyay Namaha. Mukham karoti vasaram pangom langayate girim yatkripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yatkripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our ongoing Srimad Bhagavatam reading from Canto number 2, chapter 1, entitled The First Step in God Realization. Today we are reading text number 1919. Tatraika vayavam Dhyayad Avyuchinena Chetasa Mano Nirvishayam Yuktva Tataha Kinchana Na Smaret Padam Tat Paramam Vishnur Mano Yatra Prasidati Tatraika Vayavam Dhyayad Ayuchinena Chetasa Mano Nirvishayam Yuktva Tata Kinchana Nasmaret Padam Tat Paramam Vishnor Mano Yatra Prasidati Tatraika Vayavam Dhyayad Avyuchinena Chetasa Mano Nirvishayam Yuktva Tata Kinchana Nasmaret Padam Tat Paramam Vishnor Mano Yatra Prasidati Tatraika Vayavam Dhyayad Avyuchinena Chetasa Mano Nirvishayam Yuktva Tata Kinchana Nasmaret. Padam Tat Paramam Vishnor Mano Yatra Prasidati Tatraika Vayavam Dhyayad Avyuchinena Chetasa Mano Nirvishayam Yuktva Tata Kinchana Nasmaret Padam Tat Paramam Vishnor Mano Yatra Prasidati Tatraika Vayavam Dhyayat Ayuchinena Mano Nirvishayam Yuktva Tata Kinchana Nasmaret Padam Tat Paramam Vishnor Mano Yatra Prasidati Tatra, thereafter, Eka, one by one, Avayavam, limbs of the body, Dhyayat, should be concentrated upon, Avyastinena, without being deviated from the complete form. Cetasa, by the mind. Manaha, mind. Nirvishayam, without being contaminated by sense objects. Yuktva, being dove-tailed. Tataha, after that. Kinchana, anything. Na, do not. Smaret, think of. Padam, personality. Tat, that. Paramam, supreme. Vishnu, of Vishnu. Manaha, the mind. Yatra, whereupon. Prasidati, becomes reconciled. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. And thereafter you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the concept, from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon. And because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is the ultimate, the ultimate truth, the mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. Kindly repeat after me. Thereafter, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon, because the personality of Godhead is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. Purport. The foolish persons, bewildered by the external energy of Vishnu, do not know that the ultimate goal of the progressive search after happiness is to get in touch directly with Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. Vishnu Tattva is an unlimited expansion of different transcendental forms of the personality of Godhead. And the supreme or original form of Vishnu Tattva is Govinda, or Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes. Therefore, thinking of Vishnu or meditating upon the transcendental form of Vishnu, specifically upon Lord Krishna, is the last word on the subject of meditation. This meditation may be begun from the lotus feet of the Lord. One should not, however, forget or be misled from the complete form of the Lord. Thus, one should practice thinking of the different parts of his transcendental body, one after another. Here in this verse, it is definitely assured that the Supreme Lord is not impersonal. He is a person, but his body is different from those of conditioned persons like us. Otherwise, meditation beginning from the pranava, omkara, up to the limbs of the personal body of Vishnu would not have been recommended by Shukadeva Goswami for the attainment of complete spiritual perfection. The Vishnu forms of worship in great temples of India are not therefore arrangement and idol worship, as they are wrongly interpreted to be by a class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Rather, they are different spiritual centers of meditation on the transcendental limbs of the body of Vishnu. The worshipable deity in the temple of Vishnu is identical with Lord Vishnu by the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Therefore, a neophyte's concentration or meditation upon the limbs of Vishnu in the temple, as contemplated in the revealed scriptures, is an easy opportunity for meditation for persons who are unable to sit down tightly at one place and then concentrate upon pranava, omkara, or the limbs of the body of Vishnu, as recommended herein by Shukadeva Goswami, the great authority. The common man can benefit more by meditating on the form of Vishnu in the temple than on the omkara, the spiritual combination of Aum, as explained before. There is no difference between omkara and the forms of Vishnu, but persons unacquainted with the science of absolute truth try to create dissension by differentiating between the forms of Vishnu and that of Omkara. Here it is indicated that the Vishnu form is the ultimate goal of meditation, And as such, it is better to concentrate upon the forms of Vishnu than on impersonal Omkara. The latter process is also more difficult than the former. Okay. Translation again here. To text number 19. Thereafter you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. So this is in reference to how to meditate on the Supreme Lord. The idea is that by meditating, by engaging our mind on the transcendental form of the Lord, then that mind will become purified, and we will not be agitated by the natural urges of the body. 6 urges in the body that are described in the Nectar of Instruction. Vacha begam, manasa krodha begam, jiva begam, udaropasta begam. Urge of the mind, urge of speech, urge of anger when the senses are not properly satisfied, urge of the tongue, belly and genitals. These are very, very powerful urges of the body. Man is described as an animal in philosophy. In philosophy, they give the definition of a human being or man as an animal having reason. Un animal raisonnable. Animal raisonnable, that's French. Because we have the same animal propensities, isn't it, as animals. But the difference is that we have developed consciousness. We have the ability to reason. And so when we hear from Shastra, we come to know that there are processes by which when we fix our mind, of course here the Astanga yoga or mystic yoga process is being described, and Prabhupada is making the point that that is one way to, through meditation, concentrate, try to think on the form, the Paramatma feature form of the Lord. More easy for the vast majority of people is to see the beautiful form of the Lord in His Archa Vigraha form on the altar. And that is why so many temples are there traditionally in India, especially. And that is why Srila Prabhupada also established so many temples. And that is one of the processes, especially in the beginning stage. In the beginning stage, deity worship, where we can actually see, due to our lower level of consciousness, we can only, in the initial stage, more easily relate to things that we can see, things we can touch, isn't it? So the deity form of the Lord, which is non-different from the Lord, helps the neophyte devotee. Of course, there are dangers in the sense of Prabhupada explains. That's the initial or beginning level. One needs to go actually beyond that, and sometimes one gets conditioned in thinking that one only gives importance to this particular, let's say, form or Arsha Vigraha form of the Lord, and gives less importance to the devotees of the Lord. So this is a neophyte or materialistic mentality. Many years ago, I heard this anecdote Prabhupada had in the early days when Prabhupada had come back from America after very successful preaching, and he had come back with some of his Western disciples. At that time, there was no ISKCON temple in India. So Prabhupada was like a wandering mendicant with his group of disciples. They were going around different places, and they would get invitations, and they would stay here, stay there. No fixed address, and it was at that time that Prabhupada, of course, revealed a plan to, because actually at one point Prabhupada thought that maybe I'll never come back to India. I'll just preach, because that was the order of his Guru Maharaj, to preach in the Western countries. And then, but then Prabhupada, Krishna arranged for him to come back due to health, to get his health back. And then Prabhupada began contemplating, where to establish the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here in India. And he chose 4 places where especially he will have temples. And of course we know those 4 places. We're sitting in one of those places right now, Sridham Mayapur. And then for the Vaishnavas, another very prominent place is Vrindavan, Vrindavan Dham, Mayapur Dham. And the 3 out of the 4, the 3 that Prabhupada established very firmly, the third one being, of course, in Mumbai, because Mumbai is like the financial capital of India. And so Prabhupada would say, yes, I established these 3 places. Mumbai is my office where I can do my, administration and coordination, management of the society. And that's where the bureau, Prabhupada, it's only in India that Prabhupada established a legal entity called the bureau to run the affairs of the society, which is still existing to this day. So Mumbai was Prabhupada's office, he would explain. And Mayapur is my place of visit, pilgrimage, place of worship. And therefore he invited devotees every year to come to Sridham Mayapur to worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the founder of the Sankirtan movement. And then Vrindavan, my home, Prabhupada's home. And the 4th plan was to have a big temple, which has not yet happened. Where? In Jagannath Puri. Some temple is there, some preaching is there, and of course devotees who come to Mayapur often will slip down south to Jagannath Puri, take the Jagannath Puri Express overnight train and come to the Jagannath Puri. So when Prabhupada was traveling, before any of these temples were established, so he would stay in. Prabhupada actually started. His approach in India was a little different. In America, he had the devotees go out on Harinam. That was very successful, and they would distribute books. When he came to India, in the initial days, devotees, when they would go out on Harinam, they were not. Well, of course, in Gujarat, they were all very nicely received. But Prabhupada wanted to introduce a special program to involve, so he started a life membership program. And all the devotees in the beginning thought, no, this is not going to work. Devotees thought so many things that Prabhupada was planning would not work, like establishing a temple in Juhu. It was a jungle, Prabhupada, there are nice buildings already. We can have a nice temple there. The Prabhupada, no, we're going to have a temple here. So one time he was having devotees. They would contact some of the life members, and naturally, because that is part of the culture in India, life members would invite Srila Prabhupada for prasadam and for some discourse like that. So one time they went, and I think it was in the early morning, somewhat early morning, Prabhupada with a group of devotees, they went to this life member's house, and when they arrived, they were told that Babu or whatever, he's busy with his deity worship. Please, you can wait. So Prabhupada and his devotees, they had to wait like, I don't know, half an hour or whatever. Then after that, he came and they had their small program, this and that. Then after Prabhupada left that place, he explained to the devotees, you see, this is a neophyte mentality. It is said that if one is a pujari and some Vaishnavas come to the temple, not all the time, but on special occasions, he may stop his worship of the deity and greet or receive the devotees, the Vaishnavas. So especially, of course, when the Guru or the spiritual master comes, especially, founder Acharya, then so this is being referred to here, meditation. Main purpose of this kind of meditation is to take away our mind from otherwise material activities or material activities rather of sense gratification. And deity worship, of course, in many of our temples where they have beautiful deities, in the morning devotees are making garlands, and they are making so many preparations. They make, especially for special festivals, they will make a new dress for the deity. So many things. They will decorate the temple nicely. All for the pleasure and satisfaction of the Lord. So the main goal and the purpose behind all of this, and Prabhupada is making the point here, that it is not so easy to just close our eyes and meditate. In Kali Yuga, when we close our eyes, we don't meditate, we fall asleep, usually. So better to be having our eyes open and to render direct service, just like, the people, they go out, it's like you do here. After the Bhagavatam class, somebody goes, I think you go to collect some tulsi leaves and a few flowers, different paraphernalia that is meant to be offered ultimately for the pleasure and satisfaction of the Lord. So that's one of the messages, or main message being conveyed here. Yeah. So in the translation again, therefore you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu one after another, and normally beginning from the lotus feet, gradually rising to the smiling face of the Lord. Bhagavatam is described in this way also. The first cantos are the lotus feet of the Lord, gradually rising to the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, which is the smiling face of the Lord. Without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all sense objects. That's the goal and the objective, to become detached from this body, this material world. There should be no other thing to be thought upon, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. So the mind will only become satisfied, peaceful, when we are in tune, when we are meditating, when we become accustomed to fix our mind on the Lord, then and only then the mind becomes satisfied. Anything on this? Yes.
As eventually I mentioned first, the meditation start from lotus feet and then
Yes.
But in our Gaudiya Sampradaya, second initiation given very later.
In our Gaudiya Sampradaya, second initiation is
given very later. Who is qualified?
Given later. Yeah.
So how this meditation start? Because initially we have lot of services, like lot of services given.
There are a lot of services, yeah. Then
Related to deity services.
right.
Then how this meditation how one can do that?
How can we do that? Well, first of all, the second initiation is not an absolute necessity to begin with, to successfully meditate on the Lord. It is not that everyone will receive second initiation. As a matter of fact, the second initiation is meant for a small percentage of people. Regardless, even without, we say, within our ISKCON society, when we think of second initiation, we think of Brahman initiation. In the Vedic culture, there is beyond, or in addition rather, not beyond, in addition to Brahmana initiation, there's also traditionally Kshatriya initiation and Vaishya initiation, which we don't have right now. But your question is how, because we have so much of service, how can we meditate? Isn't it? How can we meditate on the form of the Lord, etc.? Our meditation is meant to take place or happen as we render service. Meditation is not only sitting down with closed eyes. Meditation, Prabhupada explains how samadhi, because the perfection of meditation is to attain what is called samadhi. Samadhi means to be fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. So by rendering so many different services, to the extent that we render those services nicely, to the extent that we are attentive in doing whatever we're doing. Just like I remember, I won't mention any name, but I was in one devotee's home one time, and he would give me, it was possibly around this time, maybe in the winter, he would give me a hot drink, maybe like lemon juice, something. This one particular time, I took a sip of it, and he had mistakenly put salt instead of sugar. Mm-hmm. Salt looks a lot like sugar, but the taste is completely different. So, or just like sometimes Prabhupada noticed a few times, whenever Prabhupada would have darshan, he would look, and one time Prabhupada's picture was upside down. Meditation means doing our service with the utmost attention and utmost perfection. This is actual meditation. You see, meditation is again not simply closing one's eyes and thinking of Krishna. Actual meditation, actual samadhi means to be connected through our different activities. Those three activities of the mind: thinking, feeling, willing, and then executing this thinking, feeling, and willing by practical service. So this is, in this way, Krishna consciousness is practical. It is seen in how nicely we engage in our devotional service. And our devotional service not only to Krishna, and our devotional service to devotees, or to anything which is in relation to Krishna. So this is the actual process. In other words, these two levels of jnanam and vijnanam, knowledge, knowing and understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but demonstrating in a practical way, how, just like here, we are in an apartment. So, because we have a small altar, and wherever we may stay, we should always have an altar. I mean, ideally we should have a deity, because the consciousness that we are trained in is that actually this apartment belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. And we are maintaining, we are in our different activities maintaining the what belongs to Krishna. So, so therefore the importance of keeping all things very neat and clean, and being punctual in what we are doing, all of these different things. So we should not think that we're so busy in doing different things that we don't have time to meditate on Krishna. Our being busy for Krishna and our doing things in proper consciousness is meditation. is meditation. And to the extent that we perfect those activities, it means we are perfecting our seva, our service to Krishna. Then that is actual samadhi. That is actual samadhi. So people who preach, for example, by distributing books, by making this effort, being conscious that the conditioned souls are simply suffering, will continue to suffer due to not having this knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Whatever we're doing is not simply for ourselves, but for the greater benefit of others as well. So being busy in Krishna consciousness, I mean, this Prabhupada standing order, often repeated as well. 24 hours a day we should be engaged in Krishna's service. Being nicely engaged in Krishna's service means the mind is fixed on that service. And as the verse here is nicely explaining, that it is only when that happens that when we do things for Krishna, that the mind becomes reconciled. In other words, the mind's actual nature and position is to be thinking of Krishna, to be engaged in the service of the Lord, and only then the mind actually will become satisfied. Vast majority of people in the material world are very disturbed, are mentally in anxiety, etc., because their mind is not properly engaged. And the same thing happens to us as devotees. If we are forgetful of our primary duty and responsibility, or if we neglect to do things properly, then Krishna knows, Krishna sees, and then of course devotees also will notice if our service is not, if it is not proper, and therefore it's all based on reciprocation. The more we are attentive, it's like in any relationship between two people, if one is attentive in properly relating to the other person, then that person becomes, understands it, becomes happy and satisfied. But if we are neglectful, then that proper reciprocation will not take place. Yeah. So meditation is actually, we could say, concentrated service, or service with attention, and that attention, initially we have to maybe force ourselves, but that attention is meant to become spontaneous, because as we develop develop genuine feelings, as we develop sentiments, loving sentiments, we speak of devotional service, loving devotional service. That is what makes our activities and our service and our relationships actually healthy and attractive and satisfying. Yeah. We could discuss more, but time is. Yeah. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.